is just gone 8 o'clock Central African time. Good evening and welcome to the news bulletin at 8, brought to you by Eswatini TV. My name is Saneboy Ngongane. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us. We're coming to you live from our Hospital Hill studios in Mbabane, and these are your top stories tonight. The government of Eswatini's COVID-19 vaccines procurement program is still on track. The Minister of Health refutes reports that the government is relying on COVID-19 vaccines handouts. And over 23,000 blankets have been donated to Philani Maswati charity organization since the campaign started. And now the news in detail. The Minister of Health, Zinkosi, has called for calm and assures Maswati that government's COVID-19 vaccines procurement program, including the Oxford AstraZeneca, is still on track. Ngozi was speaking after reports from one of the publications suggested that the procurement may be disturbed following that India has suspended the selling of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines to other countries.
The Minister of Health, Zinkosi, during a media briefing which was held at the Cabinet offices on Wednesday, assured the nation that the second batch of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine will be delivered in the country next month. Maswati, who took the first jab of the vaccine, are expected to take their second jab starting from next month. The minister gives a clear picture regarding the procurement of AstraZeneca vaccine and other COVID-19 vaccines.
The next delivery from COVAX is expected in May 2021. The exact expected delivery date will be communicated to Maswati closer to the date. We have not received any communication from COVAX to inform of a delay for the planned May 2021 delivery of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Eswatini expects to receive 500,000 doses of Oxford University AstraZeneca vaccine as a donation from Oxford University AstraZeneca. This consignment is expected to come from Europe, not India, and is expected in the country by May 2021. We will be conducting a vaccine effectiveness implementation study alongside the inoculation campaign. This is aimed at getting more information and evidence of these vaccines as we continue to learn more on COVID-19, so as to contribute to the global knowledge.
The minister's remarks comes after India, which is the supplier of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines, has temporarily suspended its selling to other countries. This is because the country hopes to vaccinate its population amid COVID-19 third wave outbreak. As Eswatini Minister of Health pleads with the Maswati not to panic, she says she expects to take her second jab of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine on May 26 this year. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muslim Konda Cabinet offices.
Government of Eswatini refutes reports of relying on COVID-19 vaccines handouts. Refuting the claims was the Minister of Health, Zinkosi, who said on December last year, government availed 200 million emalangeni strictly for COVID-19 vaccines procurement. Our reporter Fortune Dlangamandla has more on that story.
Currently, over 20,000 Maswati have taken their first doses of COVID-19 Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines. Government have been accused that, among other things, that it has not procured more vaccines because it is waiting for donors. The Minister of Health, Zinkosi, says such reports are misleading and untrue. The minister explains the country's COVID-19 vaccines procurement program.
For between the COVAX facility and the AU facilities, Eswatini can access vaccines to cover only 35% of the population. The rest is to be procured directly from manufacturers. It is deliberately misleading to assume that the government is reliant on donations. As of December 2020, the government had set aside 200 million emalangeni for procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. And this has not been utilized yet due to challenges faced with access to COVID-19 vaccines. This challenge is not just at Eswatini, but is faced by many other countries. Additionally, the CARE Foundation also committed a US $15.8 million, which is now set aside for the purchase of Moderna vaccine, with negotiations currently at an advanced stage and delivery is expected in the third and fourth quarter of 2021. with additional funding that came from the government of Republic of China, Taiwan, which stands at 1.5 million. We have more than enough money for our needs, but the challenge remains access to the vaccines. The government continues to engage with manufacturers to access COVID-19 vaccines.
The minister says should it happen that after 3 months, eMaswati who took their first jabs of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine will have not been vaccinated again, they will have to start afresh with the program. The minister says this process does not pose any danger. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muzimkonta Cabinet Offices.
The Minister of Education, Lady Howard, has distributed grade 0 teaching and learning materials to 80 primary schools. Howard was represented by the Minister of Youth Affairs, Harris Blunga, who says this donation will contribute to the improvement of quality education and the reduction of dropout and repetition rate in primary schools.
The Minister, Harris Bulunga, says early childhood is the most important stage in a human being because that is where a foundation for learning and life is set. He says a good foundation results to a good future and a poor one results in a poor future. He continues to say early childhood years shape how children grow in the first school years and shape in confidence. Each school will receive 7 desks and 28 chairs.
Siyakujabulela lokho ukuthi nibaniketile lithuba labantwana labayawungena kuleli class la grade 0 ngokuthi nabo bayithole le foundation.
The project we are here about today is critical and a long-term investment in early learning that our country needs. It is the best and most effective tool that will close achievement and opportunity gaps. Early childhood education is the best investment the country can make to ensure children are competitive and prepared.
The consignment was distributed to schools in all parts of the country which offer grade 0 lessons. Reporting, I'm Lungilele Makakula with Mbonga Dube, Zulwini.
The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Polile Shakanto, has officially launched a 2-day stakeholder consultation workshop in preparation of the country's report to be submitted to the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on the Universal Periodic Review Mechanism. Now, the meeting was held at the Sibane Hotel.
It is not only Eswatini that is currently having the workshop, which is the preparation of the country's report to be presented to the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on the Universal Periodic Review Mechanism. All 193 countries under the United Nations are also preparing the same report, which will be presented in November this year. The UPR mechanism provides an opportunity for states to declare actions taken to improve the human rights situation in their countries. UN members of state once every 4.5 years present such a report, and the country presented its second cycle report in May 2016.
During the review, 183 recommendations were raised, which are aimed at assisting in improving the human rights situation in the kingdom. Out of the 183 recommendations, 133 enjoyed our support and 50 of the recommendations were noted. The country is expected to report on progress on implementation of these recommendations in the 3rd cycle.
The minister also implored the stakeholders in attendance to look into the zero draft, verify, update the information contained therein, intensify gaps and an effort to improving the report. She also extended gratitude to the United Nations Development Programme for the continued support and collaboration in the promotion and protection of human rights in the kingdom and taking care of the costs related to the hosting of the workshop. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Msimisi Shaba Ezulwini.
The chairperson of Philani Maswati charity organization, Lutho Dlamini, says over 23,000 blankets have been donated so far to the organization since the commencement of the campaign. He urges Maswati to donate more blankets for the elderly as winter approaches. Our reporter, Lungilele Makakula, has more on that story.
The Donate a Blanket campaign was officially launched by the Philani Maswati charity organization last year for the benefit of the elderly who are destitute. The chairman of the organization, Lutfo Dlamini, says ever since the project commenced, they have received over 23,000 blankets from individuals and companies. He urges Maswati to continue to donate these blankets to the organization for the benefit of the elderly, in particular because winter is approaching.
We'd like to indicate that the Donate a Blanket campaign was a major success and that a lot of companies, individuals, organizations assisted us. I think we raised in excess of 3,000 blankets, which were all distributed around the country to the needy people. We will not say we've now closed the campaign because, as you can see, winter is approaching. We once again appeal to good-hearted citizens of this country, whether corporate or individual, to one more time assist us with blankets, be they used or new, and jackets, which we will also try and assist the elderly people. The indications are that this winter will be very, very cold, and as you will appreciate, after the pandemic, very few people can actually afford to have warm clothes. So we really appeal to the public and to everyone who can assist.
Reporting, I'm Lungelile Makakula with Monga Dube in Babane.
Over 110,000 trees have been planted in the country through the campaign that Plant a Tree and Save the Environment that started in 2020. Senior Forester at the Minister of Tourism and the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Mpegeni Nxumalo, says despite the change of seasons to winter, the campaign is still in progress.
National Tree Campaign was first initiated in September 2020, whereby the country set a target of 10 million trees to be planted in 5 years. Different local companies and organizations have shown massive support and involvement of this initiative, says Senior Forester Mpegeni Nxumalo in the Ministry of Tourism and Environment.
We have actually reached we have planted more than 110,000 trees in the different places in the country. And the campaign is going on. We'll continue planting, even though we'll not be planting at a high rate as it was in summer. Since now we're approaching winter and the temperatures will be very cool, and therefore we cannot continue planting because of the dryness of the winter season.
Nxumalo says they have worked closely with Inyati Construction, which ensures that the plantation of trees is also done in construction sites in the country.
We have worked together with that company to plant trees in some places, including Enjabulweni in Manzini. There is a site where they were actually dumping the soil that they were actually removing from the road. And that is the site where we've planted trees with Inyati. And together with the company, we have also identified some other places along the road where they are working, where we'll be planting trees, probably when in summer, when we start receiving rains.
Private local nurseries have also played a huge role of providing and donating different tree species to allow diversity in the campaign. Maswati are also in a favorable position to purchase seedlings from these private nurseries in order to conserve nature. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Nomalungelo Jele with Mbongwa Dube in Lobamba.
The director at the Meteorological Services, Dudu Ntlengedva, says the strange high temperatures in the afternoon and the cold nights experienced as winter approaches are caused by climate change.
The weather conditions seem to be strange lately, although winter is approaching, because during the day temperatures rise and in the evening they decrease as though it was the summer season.
Liqiniso lithi vele ngalesikhathi lapho khona siku transition shokuthi nje ngale autumn ngithi kusekwindla kuba khona lo ukuthi emazinga ethu ekushisa ahle enyuka aphinze ehle.
Director Matt Dudu Ntlengedva says this is normal as it is a transition from autumn to winter. She says this is also caused by the effects of climate change. She says hot temperatures seem to have risen this year compared to last year due to climate change.
Emazinga ethu ekushisa siwabonile nasithi siyabuka nje sicomparison eminyaka lesemuva ukuthi ayangekwenyuka nanyalo leso simo leso siyaqhubeka and now.
She says hot temperatures are expected to rise as the winter season approaches. She urges the public to take health precautionary measures to protect themselves. She says they are yet to release a full report on how cold the winter season will be. Reporting Mlungile Makakula in Babane.
The Bapalali Eswatini Red Cross Society is training volunteers who go out to sensitize people in communities about the importance of COVID-19 vaccines and to help dispel existing myths and misconceptions about the country's vaccination drive. The volunteers are expected to reach out to communities by next week under the organization's Gate-to-Gate campaign.
It was upon realizing existing knowledge gaps about the importance of COVID-19 vaccines among different people and communities in Eswatini that Bapalali Eswatini Red Cross Society decided to train a group of over 250 volunteers who will sensitize people about the importance of COVID-19 vaccines. The organization's national COVID-19 officer, Dumsile Maduna, says volunteers will reach out to communities through the Gate-to-Gate campaign, with special focus being on marginalized groups.
The COVID-19 response is dynamic. So at this point in our response, we are in a transition where we have entered the era of vaccination. But we feel as Red Cross that we didn't have enough time to prepare ourselves and the communities for this vaccine. So what we are trying to do in this different approach, in this gate-to-gate approach of our response, is that let us equip our volunteers before they go out there. We equip them on vaccine and the basic facts about the COVID-19 vaccines, because we know what the people, they have questions. There are myths that are ongoing out there. There are rumors that has been spread out there about the COVID-19. And these have affected acceptability of the vaccine.
One of the volunteers who is being trained, Nondumiso Dlamini, acknowledges that many people still have unanswered questions about COVID-19 vaccines. She says one of the reservations people have about the COVID-19 vaccines in her community at Lutse in the Manzini region is that why have elderly people been targeted as being the first to receive the vaccine? Volunteers from Manzini and Babane have been trained, while others from Sitegi, Nhlangano and Pixpic will be trained in upcoming sessions. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Matapa.
Newly re-elected president of the Eswatini Principal Association's Welcome Mhlanga has encouraged all school principals in Eswatini to quickly adopt the use of ICTs in their everyday lives as they conduct school business. Mhlanga said this when addressing delegates participating in the organization's elective conference, where he was re-elected into the position of president.
Principals from the country's 4 regions took part in the Eswatini Principals Association elective conference, which was held in Matapa. After being re-elected into office, the association's president, Welcome Mhlanga, encouraged principals from all schools in Eswatini to keep up with the times by quickly embracing the use of technologies in their everyday lives. Mhlanga says the 21st century has always demanded the adoption of ICTs, while the outbreak of COVID-19 leaves educators with little option other than being quick adopters of technology.
We also have to get used to the languages of webinar, webcasts, or whatever it is called. But meeting as we are meeting today may become a challenge going forward. But what we are saying is that as EPA, let us adapt. Principals also have to provide leadership in the integration of ICTs in schools as demanded by the new normal. Failure to do so will widen the divide in our school system.
Others who were elected into office alongside the association's president were Pindile Makhanya, who takes over reins from Petros Horton, Mduduzi Masilela, who is General Secretary, Organizing Secretary Thembi Mkwena, as well as Gugu Dlamini, who was elected as Deputy General Secretary. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Manzini.
The Center for Financial Inclusion, CFI, met with the Lubombo region business operators to look at what business operators normally buy from outside the country that farmers of the region can supply. Now, the meeting took place at Steg, and our reporter Tembelete Makuchwa has more on that story.
Center for Financial Inclusion, CFI's main objective is to grow business opportunities in the country. Phumzile Nhleko-Mthethwa, CFI's project manager, said this during a meeting with the Lubombo region business operators when discussing ways to improve farmers who want to sell their products to the business operators.
So the project ibuke ukuthi na basakhuthazwa labalimi ukuthi bakhulise tilimo tabo nekuthi balime ngendlela lefunwa imakethe. Kukhona lamathuba ukuthi le makethe ikhuliswe bantfu labathide lekufaka ikhathi etitolo lokufaka ikhathi ema restaurants. So labo banenzima lenkulu lekudzinga ukuthi bayidlale.
Sibusiso Fagutse, who spoke on behalf of the region business operators, said being able to buy products made by the region's farmers would be of great help to them.
Usually, but low was net amathuba siwathenge locally because sidanga ukuthi sitokuthola ama cheaper price nalokuthi sidoba ne continuous relationship nema local farmers.
Lubombo Regional Secretary Jane Mkhontas Melane thanked CFI for the initiative of improving the region.
Noma sisekeleni bakhiqidi bethu ngekhathi even lakithi laseSwatini. Batoba nalomdlandla phela ukuthi nabakhiqida bayathi sibafaka ene batabathengele.
One of CFI's goal is to support local products so to meet the nation's vision of having enough food in the country to minimize buying food from outside the country. Reporting is Tembelete Makuchwa with Temba Shabangu Stegi.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at news making headlines in the world of sports. We begin with the MTN Premier League results for matches that were played today. Eswatini TV's Patrice Msibi has more on that story.
In the latest Premier League round of Game 6, at the Kings of Boza Stadium, Young Buffaloes, who are at the summit of the Premier League standings, defeated bottom-placed Malande Chiefs by 2-1. Denver Sundowns was defeated by Royal Leopards by 2-0. At the Tabangulu Stadium, Tabangulu Kellys defeated struggling Molene Pirates by 2-1. Bobane Swallows had to fight back to defeat Black Swallows by 3-1 in a game that was played at the Killarney Stadium. At the Mavuso Sports Centre, Billing Hotspurs defeated Mhlume Peacemaker by 4-0. In the game of the round, Manzini Wanderers played to a goalless draw against 10 men Baban Highlanders after Ndumi Sondaba received these matching orders. On Thursday, Dinyos will play Manzini Seabirds at the Prince of Wales Stadium, and Tambuti will take on Green Mamba at Mayaluga Stadium. Both matches to start at 3 p.m. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patrice Msibi with Linda Dlamini, Manzini.
The Director of Health, Dr. Vuse Makakule, says the sport of tacball will help health workers get an opportunity to forget about the hard work they do every day and exercise, as it is important to keep active more, especially now in the COVID times. Makakula was speaking when receiving tacball tables from the tacball federations in Mbabane.
The Eswatini Tacball Federation has donated tacball tables to the Minister of Health. Receiving the tables was Dr. Vus Makakula, who is the Director of Health in the Ministry. Makakula says the tables will help the health workers to exercise and keep fit.
Exactly, the importance of this is it offers an opportunity for the workers to actually do some form of exercise at any one time. If you are put in a confined place, then you do some exercise. So we really are grateful for
Nula Zingwenyama, who is the secretary of the association, says this is their way of showing their appreciation to the healthy workers.
Is our way of showing gratitude to the healthcare workers who have been on the front lines of the pandemic. It's our way of saying, Nani, remember to take care of yourselves. Use the table, keep active, keep healthy, keep fit, because my healthcare workers agalali.
The federations donated 4 tables which cost 30,000 Malangeni each. Nolwazi says they will come back to teach the healthy workers how the sport is played. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi with Linda Dlamini Mbabane.
Now that brings us to the conclusion of our news bulletin at 8. But before we go, here's a quick recap of our news-making headlines tonight. The government of Eswatini's COVID-19 vaccines procurement program is still on track. The Minister of Health refutes reports that the government is relying on COVID-19 vaccines handouts. And over 23,000 blankets have been donated to Philani Maswati charity organization since the campaign started. Well, Eswatini, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin at 8 here at Eswatini TV. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us. We shall now cross over to the Weather Center for a detailed weather report from us and the rest of the transmission crew here at Eswatini TV. For now, it's good night and God bless.
We've been drifting, lost at sea. You're so far from me.
Bring the family together with great specials like bobtail dog food for only $127.99 and 2 kg Sunlight hand washing powder for just $38.99.
I'll be your lighthouse and bring you back to me.
We're here for you.